me today Giselle Roeder, and she's written this book, We Don't Talk About That. Millions of women were abused and raped during the final stages of World War II, and many had the attitude that we don't talk about that. And this woman, Giselle, who's with me today, found the courage to write about her memories and put it on record. You grew up, Giselle, in rural Germany.
Right.
It actually became East Germany.
No.
Oh.
That part where I grew up became Poland.
Okay.
Because we were evicted and were 3 weeks on the road to nowhere alongside the Russian war machinery and often pushed into the ditch. 3 weeks sleeping under the stars and nothing to drink, nothing to eat. And having a baby with us, my mother's youngest, we had to rinse the diapers in the ditches in a little bit of water. But that was not just us. Hundreds of thousands of people were in the same boat, so to speak.
And you told me earlier that the book starts off very lightly in terms of your anecdotes of growing up. Yeah. And the war didn't touch you at first.
No, not at all, not at all. Actually, I started out giving a bit of a background after the First World War and how it led to the second one. And then going in, when the second one started, the life that we led, the things that happened in the family and in the village as well as in the country. Mm-hmm. And then after the war, in 1945, when the Russians were fighting 5 kilometers away from our village, 7-1 against the Germans, they were pushed back through the Oder River, which is now the border between Poland and East Germany. And the Germans blew up the bridges, and the rest of the Germans were just killed.
So
the army. And we were evicted several times, by the Russians first, then by the Poles.
And as certainly you grew up in Germany, and then you actually became lived in what was then East Germany.
East Germany, right.
And then
after 3 weeks, we ended up with an aunt on the island of Rügen and lived in the attic with 13 other people, all related. One of the women was pregnant with a Russian child, and she was very, very unhappy. And there were no doctors, there were no teachers, there was nothing, no shops. You couldn't buy anything. You couldn't work for your living if you wanted to. Mm-hmm. So it was tough to get through that time. But there were funny things too, and I try to keep the book in waves. People have said, my God, that book makes me cry, it makes me laugh, and at the end I wonder, how could she survive all of that?
And this book talks about your journey in East Germany, then through to West Germany.
Right.
And you told me it spans a time from about 1920 right up to the 1960s when you left Europe and eventually came to North America.
Yeah, but we don't talk about that yet. That's the second book.
Okay.
This book goes to 1963 when I was really in a big decision making. Do I go to Canada or don't I go to Canada?
Now, for everyone, I've got to tell you about the fact that this memoir, and you're going to be doing some readings from the memoir at Chapters at Woodgrove on Sunday, September 21st. Mm-hmm. At the Hammond Bay, the new library location, at 6:30 p.m. on Monday, September 22nd, and at the Parksville Library at 1:30 on Friday, September 26th. So right. You'll be there to not only to talk about that, but to sign books and talk about that.
And also to discuss, because people always have questions.
Now, this book has been talked about by historians all over. It tells the story. It doesn't matter who you could have been living through World War II in Europe.
It could have been in England. It could have been anywhere.
Well, it's an exciting. It's a story that's both uplifting and certainly has some dark moments. Thank you for coming in, Giselle.
Thank you for having me.
I think it's a story that had to be told, and certainly to pick up the book. It's a great read.